James, we're back again, ADSN. We need a new theme song. Us just jumping in is getting old, so we got to do that this week. But let's jump into the rundown. The weekend was wild on Twitter. I know you were following it all weekend because I was getting all your texts. But Andrew Chen set off a firestorm with his tweet where he said, lots of AI codes are starting to experiment with paid marketing, so here's my take. Paid acquisition is a tax on your product's defensibility. The moment you can't outspend the incumbents and competitors, you die. And that set everyone off. You must have sent me a dozen tweets of people responding, and I know we were in on this as well.
Yeah, there's a couple of great responses. Well, I guess the first part of this was that Bill Gurley, who's like one of the most famous investors ever at Benchmark, was in Uber and Nextdoor and Zillow and a bunch of stuff. He kind of like doubled down and said paid marketing is the crudest game you can play. It's admitting you have no creativity and actually restricts your creativity. Fire those that want to spend more. I thought that it reminded me of Olivia from House and how basically, I think Gurley, I actually tweeted this. It was just like, fire people who like are telling you to spend the wrong place. But like, A, that's like kind of BS. B, yeah. Uber was like extremely famous for spending a ton of marketing for user acquisition. And even I was thinking about, I listened not too long ago to the Acquired podcast about Coca-Cola. Yeah. And like their entire strategy was basically putting Coca-Cola ads on like barns throughout America early on. So like, I'm not sure if this really holds up, but the best tweet I saw about this was Nate Lorenzen, who like we talk about almost like every Nate Lorenzen. Yeah, we talk about like I think almost every week now. He's got bangers. He said, venture capital is the crudest game you can play. It's admitting you have no creativity and actually restricts your creativity. Fire those that want to raise more. And so I thought it's just really funny. It's kind of just descended into chaos. I do think that ads like are a modern form of like rent. Like you no longer run your business in a physical world. So it's a form of lease. And so therefore like you don't want to have a lease that you can't afford or justify. But like to say paid marketing is the crudest game you can play, I think is kind of not being intellectually honest. So I respect Gurley immensely, but I question the validity of that statement.
Yeah. I feel like that's something they tell their companies once they get a little irresponsible, and now they've just put it on the public stage. And interesting take for guys that funded advertising for a decade.
Lot of ad spend.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I guess moving gears to this next one related to kind of venture capital and startups. There was an interesting tweet or post by Colossus, which is part of Patrick O'Shaughnessy's kind of conglomerate, where they said despite the proliferation of startup pundits over the last 25 years, no one knows how to make a startup more successful. He goes on to say with an essay, legendary venture investor presents the data, diagnoses the problem, proposes something that might actually work. But when you look at the data, it basically all shows that nothing has changed in 25 years. The startups that are, getting seed investment, getting whatever, like there is nothing that they can do that is materially changing their chances for success, at least not in the data.
Yeah, I buy that. I agree, and it makes me think of a very good friend of mine, Mike DiGiorgio, who is the founder of Crexy, and which is like one of like the most, probably like one of the most interesting companies in LA, growing incredibly fast. And when he was originally starting the company, like he brilliant guy, but like didn't go to Stanford, just like didn't work at like Goldman, like didn't have all the things that everyone was looking for. And I think like there was a period of time where investors used that against him. And then now I think there's actually this move towards against like the like coastal elite, right? Like you kind of want like someone who came from a different background. And so I think it just shows no one knows what the hell they're talking about. And that at least in my limited experience in this sort of startup world, it's just people who have like, they're just I mean this very nicely if Mike's listening, which he's like not because he's like working, is they're just like psychopaths. Like the dude will run through a brick wall and he's not going to lose. And like that, I think there's probably, they shouldn't do punditry on like the data. They should probably have like a shrink come in and just like assess, what are the chances this person can actually succeed or not? Because it's brutal. Like having run companies before.
That's your new book idea, is go interview 100 of these founders and figure out like what is that just thing,
common thread,
that tick, that complex that like drives these people that like normal people don't have.
I have no idea, but Mike's got it for sure. But yeah, so that's why I think that makes sense. I get it. Pretty hard to predict on the data, but I bet you it's probably not that hard to see from the person.
Yeah. I guess staying in the startup scene, we've got one from Sar Harbaki, who I follow, and he has incredible tweets. Sorry, Sar. But he put out something from Andreessen, which is more data, just showing that more businesses are getting started. They're spending more on tech and less on payroll, and it's showing this divergence in now an AI era where people are founding more companies, they're investing more in the technology to go into them. There's more businesses being started than ever before, but the payroll's not increasing, at the same rate as everything else. Which, I think anyone listening to this, it's no surprise, but to actually see it play out is pretty interesting.
I think that you're going to have much smaller companies hiring digital human beings digital people in the form of AI. Yeah. And so this is like I've talked about. I think companies should start reporting on their like human to agent ratio. Like I think highlighting like some of the upgrades they made on their agents. Like again, if you sit in Claude Code and like it's so clear. I mean, I spent like all weekend talking to a robot. Like it's crazy. And like, you're never hiring like a pure engineer again. That doesn't mean you're not hiring people who are super technical, like, engineers are amazing, but you're not hiring them because of their ability to write code anymore. Like that day has changed. So this makes a lot of sense that you'd be buying basically tech and not people.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's just interesting because it's all in SMB. So this isn't like enterprise data, which I'm sure shows something even more kind of wild than this. But it is for the first time in the history of kind of federal reporting around this, is that business applications actually increased while planned wages decreased. And there's like a convergence that has happened for the first time where these things moved in line. Hiring was always higher until about a year ago when AI hit the mainstream.
It's interesting because it's a really good sort of test case for like trickle down economics. It's like really bad, but because if you think about it, what's going to end up happening is there is going to be like more wealth accrued to like the business operators, right?
Yeah.
But there's less people who are working directly at those companies, but then the disposable income should increase and therefore it should stimulate other things. So it kind of goes that whole thesis, like everyone's going to end up being in the entertainment business. Yeah. Like you're going to have a lot of disposable income to spend on things that entertain you.
Wow. I mean, this is going to lead into my RFP for the week. 18-year-old solopreneur Zach Yetagari, who founded Cal AI, which was like a food tracking like calorie app, got bought right a few weeks ago for like $40 million from MyFitnessPal. This kid's 18 years old, did it in high school, did it with AI, created a real company. Now he's going off to college with a bankroll. He's going to have a lot of fun.
Yeah,
that's why I want to come on and talk to us. Come on, Zach.
Talk to your get your Gen Z friends to go ahead and get that figured out for you.
All right, I'll call the three that I have.
Yes. So switching gears, this is another Belsky tweet. We got to like start following different people, or maybe it's just over time it's going to be like businesses where there's like less people tweeting. Yeah. But he goes, thinking products that help humans get credit for the work accomplished by agents they supervise in the enterprise will have better adoption than agentic solutions that do the work instead of humans. Credit feeds ego, drives adoption and accountability. I 1000% agree with this.
Yeah.
And I think it is the natural evolution of how these tools will work. And I think it's like why, it's like, it doesn't mean it doesn't end up being that the people get replaced, but it's sort of, like you start with Uber and then you move to self-driving cars, or even like in many cases, like businesses like Zillow and others like weren't like trying to directly cut out the brokers, right? But like now they have their own brokerage kind of. So I think that's probably a common theme that you find in these businesses. But I do think, especially in the enterprise, like if you can leverage these tools to showcase how much more efficient you can do something than someone else, it is going to get you very far in the right organizations.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is like, goes back to what we talked about last week with, software as a service service as software, that this is basically that like the things that are going to accrue value are the ones where there are services, there are people involved doing the things that, that they can 10x, 100x their work using AI. So I totally agree. Scott with another hit.
Another hit. And then this next story, it's kind of all over ad tech, MarTech news, but the Trade Desk basically failed an audit by Publicis. And so they're no longer recommended to their clients. I have a lot of thoughts about the Trade Desk sort of in general, but I think it's an interesting, I think like this whole idea that services and the new software is sort of comes to fruition in this use case where it's like, it's very obvious here that either so you have publishers, right? You're on the supply side. We represent that, and we represent publishers in our own jobs. And then there's like going to be some layer here that takes margin on the demand side. Mm-hmm. And it's really either going to be like the agencies or maybe some ad tech layer. It's obvious when you have an ad tech layer like AppLovin, right? Because they're tied to outcomes. Like that one is very hard to argue with. But these other sort of not unknown, but these other sort of arbitrary fees tied to the services and the demand side, it's either the agency is going to get it or like the new agency, the Trade Desk, is going to get it. And so like, I think we've talked about this before, we're like, at the end of the day, Trade Desk is kind of like a tech-enabled agency. Mm-hmm. And I wonder now if they're going to like, and I tweeted about this where it's like, are they going to be like services is the new software and like we're the system of record and we're going to go on all AI? Like I could see them running at that little story. But I think this just represents, it's obvious now there's not enough margin for both the agencies and someone like the Trade Desk to coexist. And so the battle is sort of on. All the while, Amazon's giving away the DSP for free.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, Amazon and Google announced it today that they're bringing like true like agentic services into DV360, their DSP. And if you're the Trade Desk, you don't own any of the inventory. You don't own direct access to any of the even third-party supply that you can help subsidize with other services. You're in a real tough spot. Like you're not going to take on Google, Amazon, so you've got to take on the agency. And eventually, like, I don't know, that margin either compresses or you got to figure out a new business model.
It actually kind of ties back to the Belsky thing. It's like the agencies look smart using Trade Desk. And then now it's time to go fight. And there's just not a room for both of them. So
everyone wants to point a finger at somebody. That's part of being in services. You get to yell at somebody.
Yeah, I think this one, I don't know. I mean, like, Trade Desk is like a great company and I respect what they built, but like, I don't think it ever merited the valuation it had. And I don't think a non-outcome based business model, if you are monetizing the demand side, makes any sense unless you're just a services shop. And if you're a services shop, probably the people who specialize in services, i.e. the agencies, are probably going to have the winning hand there, at least for now. So let's keep an eye on this one, but we do have friends there and we want them to succeed. So I'm rooting for the Trade Desk. I'm just skeptical that will end up working out the way that they will.
I want to go to this next one that you sent me over the weekend about Mark Zuckerberg getting his AI agent, his like co-CEO agent. Let's talk about that one.
That is very cool. And it made me start start setting up my own version of that for my personal life, not my work life. And it is, I don't know, it's all this stuff is so obvious. Like, it's so clear. I was talking to a friend about it this weekend where, like, most normal people, like, we were at the pool with our kids. And, like, I was, like, talking about this stupid game I built called thesituationgame.com. New season drops tomorrow, actually, season 2.
Doing great in that, by the way.
And it's over. It's over.
Well, I monitored the situation very well.
He won. He got to 100 million. Way too fast. So season 2 drops tomorrow. And I think so. Let's see about time. Whatever. Normal people don't get how far along this stuff is and how powerful it is and how it is such an accelerant in everything, and how, like, we've gone from not being able to write code to being able to build absolutely anything. Mm-hmm. And so the next obvious part here is to use it in the context of work and to make sure that, like, there's nothing that you don't know about the business you're at. And Mark Andreessen put out this thing about IBM, about, like, how IBM kind of failed because there was, like, layers of bullshit, basically. Like, there was a cloud of lies up to him. And so, like, the CEO of IBM never knew really what was going on. The days of, like, not knowing what's going on at your company, right? Like, truly not what's going on, are going to be away. Like, you're going to have this agent looking at everything across the board, and it's going to make it, like, there'll be no more surprises, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. And this goes into a tweet from Dan Schipper, the CEO of Every. It's related. And he basically said, in AI, a company is only going to go as far as their CEO goes. If you cannot delegate working with the latest tools, it's a critical part of building your intuition for how this new world works. That's why Gary Tan, Toby are going so hard right now, bullish. And I think, Zuckerberg is clearly one. He's investing so heavily on the infrastructure, on the, acqui-hiring side, building this agent himself. And I think that's, like, yeah, if your CEO and your leadership isn't adopting this stuff and isn't obsessed and learning the new things, like, I don't know, go look for a new company.
It's why I feel like we talk about the same thing. Sorry, listeners, but it's why I'm so bullish on Mike Christo and Layers. He's so bought in to being, like, the most AI first human being in the world. Yeah, and I agree. Like, if I were running a startup again, I mean, I think it'd be like me and you and one other person, and we would just be like, we're never hiring another human being. Yeah. We'd be like, how long can we last until we never have to hire another human?
For their benefit, like, too. So we're not texting them on Saturday to change a button.
Yeah. No, we would make it the most efficient thing in the world. And we'd be like, it would be unhealthy how much that our agents worked for us, but it would be pretty amazing. So I get it.
Okay. Yeah. And then I got one more before we get to primary posts. This one was hysterical. So from Andrew Kieran, it was over a bunch of news, but OpenAI is offering private equity firms a guaranteed minimum return of 17.5%, as well as early access to models not yet in public release. And this is OpenAI going after the private equity firms, but a lot of the response, rightfully so, is like, is it even legal to, like, guarantee a return of 17.5% on, like, a business that is hemorrhaging cash?
Yeah, that one's pretty interesting. I wonder what the mechanism to actually do that is. It's got to be. So we have to ask your wife. She would tell us if this is a bad deal. It's got to be unsecured, right? Like,
it must be.
Against what?
I mean, I'm sure obviously there's details in there. These are very smart people on both sides, but, like, the headline does not read well. Yeah,
I don't know. This is different than maybe just because I have been using Claude so much, and I unsubscribed to chat. Like, I think in general, I still really do believe. I was talking to my sister of all people about this because she's, like, in Beverly Hills and, like, not in tech. And I was like, what does everyone use? And she's like, chat. Like, no one uses Claude. So, like, normal people use chat. Us, like, weirdos use Claude. But, like, I do feel what's happening to OpenAI. This feels to me very similar to what it felt like when Instagram, like, steamrolled us at Snap. Yeah. And, like, I think when we were there, just, like, ultimately, like, it is what it is. But, like, we were all like, well, Evan, like, do something. Like, we wanted, like, a reaction. And I think his point of view was like, let's play our game, not play their game. And maybe that was right. But like, it feels like Claude is absolutely smoking OpenAI.
Yeah.
That being said, OpenAI keeps getting amazing new talent coming. They just keep poaching people from Meta's ads team. So like, I think there's an actual reality here that doesn't match the narrative inside X. But this just makes me think it's like, they're like, is this a competitive offering so the PE firm doesn't work with Anthropic? Like, I'm just curious what this really is. You know,
it sounds like it's just a kind of a weird pitch, but yeah, we'll see how that one plays out. All right, let's get to primary posts. Let's start with yours. What do you got this week?
My primary post is from Paul Graham, YC fame. I actually disagree with like almost everything this guy says usually, like I'd say politically, but whatever. But I thought he had a really good one, which was someone asked me what advice founders ignore, and he lists the top 6 pieces of advice that that basically founders ignore from him. And so one was that they should change their name. As you know, I'm very pro changing your name. I think that's like one of the best things you can do. Launch fast. I think that's a great one. I agree with that. Shouldn't treat fundraising as success. I'd argue I probably have fallen for that a little bit before, but I think that's good. Shouldn't assume they can raise because it's time to. They should fire bad people quickly. That one's really good. And then this one I thought was interesting. I'd not heard this really, but shouldn't talk to acquirers. And so again, Graham, from a pure, startup venture project, one of the most successful guys in the world. So you have to take it seriously. But I thought it was pretty interesting, especially the acquirers one. That's probably like a little different advice than I've even given like friends recently. So I thought that was a good one.
Yeah, that one is an interesting one, and I had to do some digging because, to be honest, I wanted to understand why he was saying that. And if you read some of his older stuff, it's a distraction for the team, and it's also could be potential competition. That's just trying to kind of understand your business. So those are 6 good ones. That's kind of the bonus that I think most people wouldn't think about. Okay,
what do you got?
I got one from Wise. Handle try code. This one had me cracking up. He wrote, tech has entered its funniest era. You can spend 3 months building a product just to discover the real job is making short videos about the product. I would argue you can spend 3 days now building a product, but the end result is still like the distribution problem we always talk about, whether it's videos, whether it's Instagram, whether it's paid ads.
Yeah.
Someone's got to find this thing and know what to do with it.
This hits, on the weekends, I'm building these random games now, which Christina is like, what are you doing? But it's like, and I'm like sitting there, like, I'm like a sub-tweet guy. Like, I'm just trying to find a way to get users. I'm not monetizing this. I just like literally just want to know how to do it all. And it has hit me that like, I probably just have to sit and make some videos and post it to Reels. I was like, this is so stupid. All right. But I agree. Like building stuff is not hard anymore. Getting users is, and that is why Bill Gurley is incorrect about
ads work. Be smart about it, but ads work.
We did it. We brought it all back.
All right. We got through the rundown today. We'll have an interview out in a few days, but great show again, James. Great show.
God, give people their time back. Thanks for listening. Bye.
All right. Bye.